Ron, are you a fan of Prada?
Yes.
You're a well-dressed, dapper man.
I think my figure is probably needs a little trimming to get into the rather nice, slim
You can ask Mr.
black
Bertelli
suits.
later on today at the Hong Kong Exchange and the ceremony. But what about the recent listings that we've seen? It looks like on average they're down about 8%. Have you had any complaints?
No, we haven't had any complaints. I think the main thing is that when you have a volatile market like what we are having now, it's not surprising that there is fairly instant reaction to it. But I think what I like to stress is that so far this year, we've probably raised about $21 billion US. And when you compare it to the whole of 2009, which was about 32 billion, that's pretty good showing.
Well, what about 2010, where you had 51 billion raised?
57, 58.
57, but that was a record year here in Hong Kong.
That was a record year,
But we're not seeing the performance repeat itself this year. So some are saying, well,
it's only half time.
It's only half time, that's true, but you've had, what, so how many people have listed over, you've 20 billion already raised.
Yeah.
It's still, Glencore and the like, still down from their IPO offerings. How many more companies do you think will still come to market? Some have already pulled, right?
Susan, I think also, must remember that in 2010, we had AIA, which by itself was $20.1 billion.
Right.
So, that took a big chunk. So I think 2011, we are likely to see some very, very good listings.
Well, Prada being the first Italian company to list here in Hong Kong, I think you've done most of the marketing. You've gone to Italy, you've gone to Russia to try to encourage more of these foreign companies to list on the exchange. Would you say after these performances, they're maybe thinking twice now?
I don't think so, because I think they realize that, in terms of where the future is, the growth is in Asia, the growth is in China, and Hong Kong is a good spot to be in. So within 5 hours flying of Hong Kong, we cover half the population in the world, and an emerging and growing half. So, there we are.
Okay, well, you've mentioned it is halftime, so at the end of this year, for the full year, how many companies do you think will come to market
I haven't got a clue. I wish I could tell you.
How about
up to
ballpark?
Up to the listing committee and the listing division, how hard they work. They're working very hard.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. In your opinion, what do you think has caused some of these disappointing day one debuts? And what does that mean from investor sentiment?
I think, you can never get your timing right in terms of the pricing or in terms of the date of listing. And, the listing and the pricing is sometimes, the market takes a fairly short-term view. You always have short-term traders. So, maybe that might account for, some of the falls that we have seen. But also the economic climate is going up and down like a yo-yo.
Yeah, that's right. Well, let me ask you about, I guess, relevance in the Hong Kong Exchange, because last year we talked about that record-setting year, 57 billion raised. Right now, the U.S. is outpacing the Hong Kong in terms of the amount raised, and performances are much better than what we're seeing here in Hong Kong. Do you think companies might pack up and say, well, we thought about Hong Kong, but maybe we're going to head to the U.S. instead?
Well, we realize that as far as companies are concerned, they can always choose the exchange they want to go to. But I think as far as we're concerned, we probably have a better medium-term story than the U.S. In terms of at least, the consumer market, the economic growth, the demand for natural resources, and all of that. So the U.S. is obviously still a huge economy, the largest in the world. But, numbers are not, looking very nice either.
Okay.
It doesn't do us any good for the U.S. not to have growth, because when the U.S. grows, the rest of the world grows. So we hope that recovery in the U.S. picks up. Okay,
well, Ron, let me ask you about what's happening in Italy as well with this double taxation concern, because you did the marketing, you went to Italy to basically, I think you helped convince Prada to come here to Hong Kong. Did you ever think that taxation would be an issue for investors in this listing?
I didn't think so, because if the company wasn't listed in Hong Kong and you bought Prada shares elsewhere, you would be subjected, or you may be subjected to the same withholding tax, or indeed even capital gains tax. So I think it's an issue of being in a low tax jurisdiction like Hong Kong, where people are not used to withholding tax, not used to capital gains tax. That if you buy shares in the U.S., you have similar situation on withholding tax. So I think our retail investors may need to sort of come to grips with that, and indeed price that into the IPO price.
Is that going to make the Hong Kong exchanges maybe rethink some of the companies that they allow to list here in Hong Kong because
I don't think so, because I think as far as that's concerned, obviously I think there was some word, I was away, but there was some word that maybe the government's going to try and accelerate the avoidance of double taxation agreement with Italy, and maybe to look at getting the Hong Kong exchange on the list of recognized exchanges, and that might ease the issue a bit.
Okay, well, Ron, I guess I have to let you go, but let me just bring up the ceremony. We have pictures of Glencore listing, and you're always, of course, part of this procession, at least for the major listings. What actually takes place? Take us through what happens in the actual process itself. The ceremony.
I think what happens is that
the smiling you
is that on the morning in question when the trading starts at 9:30. Before 9:30, the company is introduced by a member of the listing committee, and the code number, the stock number, is announced, and then we all go up back to look at the big screen to see 9:30 bell and the start of trading, and then after that, there's an exchange of souvenirs. Some of the companies, most of the companies, choose to make a donation to community chest.
Oh, very good.
And
and you have some champagne as well.
Well, that's the one thing that's not easy to get used to at 9:30 in the morning.